Greetings. Let me begin this video by saying shout out to Will Brown. This video will not be the least bit critical of Brown. I'm merely commenting on his most recent video, which is the video you see on your screen. It's a video titled, quote, Dr. William Brown, My Ancient Ancestry Results, DNA Proof, end quote. It went up around midnight or slightly past midnight Eastern Standard Time. So from the perspective of someone like myself who's on the Eastern United States, on the East Coast of the United States, the show's date is December 3rd, and that's the date you see on your screen. I put that date there. Now, I want to say up front that I sincerely appreciate the transparency and openness that Brown showed in this video, so I tip my hat to him on this one. This video that you're watching now will be a follow-up video to my previous video. And in that previous video from a couple of days ago, I expressed concern and skepticism about, Brown not showing certain important details in his screenshots from Eran ElHaik's website, the Ancient DNA Origins website. For example, I expressed concern over the fact that he didn't show his percentages across the relevant categories, and he didn't show a clear demonstration of a link to an ancient sample. Well, to Brown's credit, in this latest video from his channel, from the Boom Church channel, which again is the video you see on your screen, he showed all of that. He basically met every request. So again, credit to Will Brown. Two quick points worthy of note. First, in my previous video, I used Yashub's results on the same platform for the Tribe of Judah kit as a proxy for predicting what Brown likely got in his own test. And it turns out that Yashub's results did serve as a good proxy for predicting Brown's results, as just as Yashub got 99% quote-unquote Stone Age African, so too Will Brown got 98% quote-unquote Stone Age African. Second, Brown did indeed get directly linked with an ancient sample. However, it was on the Issachar kit, while Yashub was using the kit for the Tribe of Judah. So what Brown showed is his results for the Tribe of Issachar, and I'll be discussing these different tribal affiliations a bit later in this video. So let's jump right in. I'm going to show a couple clips from Brown's video and then offer some brief comments, and then I'm going to close it out with a clip of Orthodox Moore and me on Berean TV last night sharing some relevant thoughts. But the clip I want to show from Brown's video starts at just before this is going to be the first of two clips. And so this first clip is going to pick up from just before the 10.5-minute mark. So here we go, and fair use.
Right, so we're going to look at my results. So here's my results, all right? And if any of you taking this test, let me try to blow it up a little. Let me blow up the screen for you. All right, so that's good. All right, so I'm going to blow up the screen. So if you're taking the test, I'm not going to read all of it, but if you see looking on my screen, you see that, and this is a conversation that we're going to have on one of our discussions about how they come up with this. Is this presumed? Is this a presupposition? Is this a presupposition of all quote unquote African Americans or Stone Age Africans? So that's going to be a conversation we're going to have. So you see, I'm 98% Stone Age African, which is I think JetMatch, if I'm not mistaken, I got to pull it up. I haven't been on JetMatch in a while, but I think JetMatch had me as like 80% Sub-Saharan African or something like that. So I got to look back at JetMatch and see what, I'm gonna look at my true ancestry and see what it has me as. But here you see, according to this, as they say, I ain't got no white man in me, I guess. So there's 2% here that's left off. But if you look down, if you scroll down, you'll see here, these are the results. So this kit is the Issachar kit. Okay, if you guys seen my community post, you'll know that I shared some information dealing with Gisa. So let's look at here. So let's see if I have any matches to this. So my results is Gisa is a match. So let's click on this. We click on the chart. If you've seen my community tab, you will see that this information comes up. So what happens is, let's go to learn more. So when you click on Gisa, this is This is what it's showing me. On the left chart shows that your high genetics similarities. So when you click on learn more, it takes you here to this page, individual results. So when you look on here, it shows Gisa. So if you guys see my page on my community tab, you'll see that I shared Gisa's. So what I did was with the community post, I pretty much just shared whatever result and match that I had. I wasn't trying to, because it doesn't give you, it only gives you like 4 or 5 slides that you can post. It only gives you like 4 or 5 slides that you can post on YouTube. So I didn't post all of the slides. So I just focused on whatever the match with this particular kit. Like I said, I purchased more than one kit. So this is the Issachar kit, and this is the one that showed the Gisa. And so I thought it was interesting. So that's why I posted. Of course, I did screenshots from my cell phone. So when I did the screenshot from my cell phone, it looks different than this. So
okay, and now I want to jump to just before the 28-minute mark, as Yashub was apparently in the live chat of Brown's show when it was live. And while at the time of this recording, I'm unable to see the live chat. I didn't see the show live. I caught it a few hours later when I woke up in the morning. So at this time, I'm unable to see the live chat. It'll probably become available shortly. But as I said, Yashub was apparently in the live chat, and he was apparently encouraging Brown to show the ancient sample, the sample that Brown connected to Gisa. Yashub was encouraging him to pull up Gisa's autosomal breakdown. And Brown was kind enough to oblige him. He was interacting with Yashub, who's in the live chat. And so let's take a look at that portion. And again, fair use.
View stories. Where is this? Okay, y'all, give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give your brother a minute. Okay, Gisa Ancestry breakdown. Scroll down. Keep going down. Okay. All right. Okay. Is this it right here?
Okay, so I'll stop that right there, and now I want to offer some brief comments. My immediate comment is basically what I shared at the beginning of this video, which is that I greatly appreciate Will Brown being so open and transparent with his results. So this video is, again, not a critique of him. Now, regarding his results, getting 98% quote-unquote Stone Age African and nothing else, that is curious. Brown himself hinted that he finds that curious. And some hours before Brown's video aired, I myself commented on Yashub's video in which he showed his results. And I noted how strange it is that even Yashub's European admixture apparently got classified under quote-unquote Stone Age African. That seems to have happened with Brown as well. And so that right there should be a cause for concern, or at the very least, it should be reason to step carefully when running with the results that one receives from the ancient DNA origin sites. Now, Brown showed how the sample he linked up with scored across the relevant categories, and it's fascinating that she, too, this ancient sample, got 0% for quote-unquote Israelite. Now, of course, there's a big question about what the autosomal standard is for quote-unquote Israelite. What is both Brown and Gisa, as well as Yashub, what are they being measured against, right? Yashub, Brown, and this Gisa sample all got listed as 0% quote-unquote Israelite, but we do need to ask, what this platform is using as the standard for an autosomal Israelite. Brown got listed as 7% similar to Gisa, while being described as having basically nothing in common with the tribe of Issachar in general. Also, you may recall that the Gisa sample was dated to 7,000 BC, a little bit before 7,000 BC, so that's about, it's a 9,000-year-old sample, which is to say it's roughly 5 millennia older than what would be a popularly understood date for the time of Abraham, yet she's listed amongst the samples for the tribe of Issachar. And that in itself brings us to another curious aspect of the Ancient DNA Origins platform, which again is Eran ElHaik's website. It has different kits for different Israelite tribes. And even if you don't match up with one tribe, you can pay for another kit for a different tribe and see if you match up with that. And the possibility of matching up with one tribe and not the other is actually, it's not impossible with this platform. You see, a bunch of the samples, as I mentioned earlier, seem to be older than Abraham, and if I recall correctly, I think Yashub said some of the samples are even like 15,000 years old or something like that. And as we saw here, we've seen one example, the one that Brown linked with Gisa. This is a sample designated under the tribe of Issachar, but it's designated 0% quote unquote Israelite. And ElHaik himself said that the tribe of Asher samples include Mycenaean Greeks. So honestly, and with all due respect to the platform, this should provide reason for caution for any Bible believers who are trying to use the platform to look for connections with quote-unquote bloodline Israelites, which is to say descendants of Jacob. As I've said before, I'm not even sure if ElHaik himself believes there was a historical Jacob. And based on what's being grouped under the different tribes, it seems the platform's assumption is that ancient Israel was just a national grouping of different peoples. Now, to be fair, the ancient Levant was indeed a diverse place, and it seems the tribal affiliations on this platform are merely based on ancient samples associated with regions where the different tribes were understood to reside. So in the end, the value of this site is going to relate to one's definition of Israelite. If you hold to a patrilineal definition of Israelite, then this site is not going to be terribly relevant to your interests or your attempts to see whether or not you or someone else might be, fit that definition, whether or not someone else is a patrilineal definition, a patrilineal Israelite. You see, a person could hit 0% for quote-unquote Israelite on this platform and still descend paternally from Jacob, and thus they could still meet a patrilineal definition of Israelite. And conversely, if one instead wants to try to run with an autosomal definition of Israelite, like the Teo twins, that would immediately beg the question of what sample one is being compared to and what percentage is considered sufficient, right? Is 7% sufficient, or do you need 50%? What do you need, right? And then, of course, one can meet an ecclesiastical definition of Israelite, in which, irrespective of their lineage or their DNA percentages, they can still be an Israelite, right? So it's always going to come back to a question of starting definitions. And with that in mind, a few hours before Brown went live, the Orthodox Moor and I appeared on Berean TV discussing precisely these points. So I'm going to close this video with an 8-minute excerpt from that show. Before I close, I just want to again express my sincere appreciation to Will Brown for being so open and transparent with his results. And so points to him on that one. And with that, I look forward to any comments, questions, or criticisms of others. As I always say, I don't censor anyone here, so feel free to share your thoughts, whether positive or negative. Here's the clip from Berean TV to close it out. God bless.
Can you be an Israelite? Let's say 600,000 men, women, and children left out of Egypt. Did they all have one? Were they all explain their DNA?
See, the thing is, this is what I'm going to say. It always depends on what we mean by Israelite. So me personally, I do not hold to a patrilineal definition of Israelite. But what I always say is that, as it seems the majority of the Israelites today do hold to a patrilineal definition, I'm willing to discuss that. At the very least, it's an interesting academic discussion. So when you're talking about the strict paternal line, you're talking about Y DNA, and that's where haplogroups and stuff come in. Eran ElHaik site, for the most part, when it shows your results, it's just kind of testing you autosomally, so it doesn't really have much relevance to.
What is that site about? Is that a legit site in your opinion? Like, what's the other one? Everybody was telling the GEDmatch. Yes, is that a legit DNA site?
Oh, GEDmatch is a great site.
I ain't talking about GEDmatch. I ain't talking about GEDmatch. I'm talking about
Eran ElHaik's website.
Yes.
Look, I'll say he's a legitimate geneticist and he's doing legitimate things with your DNA. I would say that
is his website. Is he just trying to make money off the awakening?
I don't know about that. He's definitely making some money. I'll say this: as someone who's a little bit broke and can't afford his many different kits, I might be a little a little sour on how expensive it can be to get all these different kits. But so he's definitely making some money off of it. But what I would say is, using it all on Eran ElHaik's website, I think people should be clear up front about what they're looking for. Like, for example, if we're holding to a patrilineal definition, then his website can't really help you one way or the other. I'm going to give an example. Yashub recently went live on air. Orthodox Moor pointed this out a couple nights ago or a couple days ago, and so I went and checked it out.
Don't know.
Genesis 49ers. He's the guy who runs the Genesis 49ers account. He's part of the Black Band. There you go. Oh, I didn't even know Moore's on the panel. So Yashub showed his. Now, this is what I was going to say, like the relevance of the site of Eran ElHaik's site, which is ancientdnaorigins.com. Yashub went on live. He purchased the kit for the tribe of Judah, and he showed his results, and it basically put him as 0% quote unquote Israelite. Of course, the site doesn't say how it's defining Israelite, what its Israelite sample is. I mean, that's, or at least it was unclear from what I saw. And this is what I would say. Even if you get 0%, like Yashub did, that doesn't mean you're not a patrilineal descendant from Jacob, right? So that's what I would say. Because it's just doing an autosomal thing, it doesn't really tell you about your paternal line. So irrespective of what you get, like if I went on there and got a higher percentage than him, it wouldn't mean that I descend paternally from Jacob and he doesn't. So I would say if we're exploring a paternal definition of Israelite, the site is not going to be very helpful. That's not to say it has no value, but it's not going to be helpful to that. And if somebody like the Teo twins want to invoke some sort of autosomal definition of Israelite, that needs to be defined, as thus far it's been incredibly vague. So that's what I would say. It all depends on our starting definitions, the value of a site like that.
Yeah, and what's interesting? Read Jordan. Hold on a minute, brother. Read Jordan.
I'm on my phone, so I'm having trouble seeing it. It looks like it says I read him on here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm having trouble on my phone. Oh, you want me to try? All right, I'll try. Let me see. I'll turn my phone sideways. Maybe I'll get a better look.
Do it to somebody else.
He said, I read him. I got it. I read him on here when I read them DNA papers, ElHaik, and he said converts. That's why they mad. I mean, I don't know what exactly. I mean, I remember when he was.
I'm not going to. When Damon Richardson came on here, Fervent Charity, there was a few people that wanted to attempt to address some stuff, and Fervent Charity was one of the first ones to jump on. He brought out a paper and he started reading that.
This is what I would say. There's again, it's going to come back to a thing about definitions. I've never seen anyone sit down with ElHaik and ask him questions about haplogroups. He is on record, sort of saying that E is, one of the earliest haplogroups amongst the Israelites. But because he has a different definition of Israel, where he seems to see them as just a conglomerate of peoples, he's happy to see them as, encompassing multiple haplogroups. He seems to talk about how a great many mainstream Jews today don't line up autosomally with ancient samples that he assumes to be Israelite. But then even that would beg the question about what's the acceptable threshold, right? Like if there's some Ashkenazi out there who's only 15% match with some sample, like is he excluded or is he included, and on what terms, like if someone's going by an autosomal definition. So the value of ElHaik's work, I think he does valuable work, and I think of course people are free to dispute it, but I think there's going to be an open question about what our starting definition is,
All right, go ahead.
Can I go? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking forward to it.
You got it.
Yeah, so real quick, so why what Abu's saying is so important. People need to understand the implications of what Abu's saying. So the Teo twins adhere to this concept of an autosomal connection to being able to connect yourself to Israel over millennia and whatnot. They believe that using autosomal DNA is the best way to trace yourself back to Jacob, Abraham, etc. Whatnot, right? Autosomal DNA only goes back 500 years. Some people will say 1,000 years, etc. Whatnot, right? So that doesn't go back far enough to trace yourself back to Jacob. This website is set up the exact way that the Teo twins are saying we should look at DNA. It's only for autosomal DNA. And this is why it's so important, because when Yashub showed that he had no autosomal connection to what the website is saying is autosomal Israel, people need to understand, like, that's what you get. So if you go with Teo's method, none of us who have West African autosomal DNA are going to match up to ancient autosomal Israel, because ancient autosomal Israel did not look like autosomal West Africa. It's different genetics there. And so what's also off about the site, though, is like, so they don't go by patron, they don't use haplogroup. So there was actual samples there that are E1B1, right? That are Natufian samples and whatnot, right? So Yashub is EU290. He's a downstream of E1B1. They didn't say that he had any connection whatsoever to that. He should have had at least some kind of trace, like maybe 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 connection to that, given the time span and whatnot, right? However, they're saying he had zero connection to it, and that's part of his DNA, but that's part of his haplogroup. That's part of his Y DNA. That's not his autosomal, right? So they're not using that in any way, shape, or form. What does that mean? That means that if Dante Fortson, who we know for a fact has a downstream of the Natufian DNA, if he took the same test for Judah or for Levi, for any one of the tribes, via how this website does it and the methodology of the Teo twins, he would not have any autosomal DNA that goes back to those tribes that they have on the website, even though he has a close downstream of E1B1.
Yeah, I think Dante's a good example. He actually came to mind when I was thinking about the site. I was thinking, now I don't know what Dante would get if he bought one of those kits, but hypothetically speaking, if like Yashub, Dante took the site and it said something like 0%, for quote unquote Israelite, that wouldn't disqualify him as a patrilineal descendant of Jacob. I'm not saying that he is, but I would continue to stand on my position, which is that I think he has a good probability of being so. And so the thing is, this recourse to autosomal and stuff like that doesn't really answer the patrilineal questions. And when you appeal to ancient DNA origins, you're appealing to basically an autosomal approach, and the question should be asked up front. What is the threshold you're looking for? Any percentage or some specific percentage, and so on.
And why Dante's important? Real quick, and why Dante's important is because Dante's actually more autosomally sub-Saharan African than Yashub is. Yashub is 80%. Dante's like 89, 90%. So Dante is even more autosomally West African than Yashub. So he's going to come up even less autosomally Israel in that website.
That's an excellent point.